Get in, nerds. We are explaining Hearts of Iron 4. I realized I think I never talked about resources. So today is a good day to talk about resources. There are 6 resources in Hearts of Iron 4. Oil, aluminum, rubber, tungsten, steel, and chromium. And I'm going to walk you through what they're for. First, oil. Primary use of oil is that it is the main component of fuel. As you can see here, I extract 15 oil and import 56 oil, giving me a total surplus of 64. As you can see here, that is giving me 3.3 thousand daily fuel gain. That's the primary thing oil is for, and the longer the game goes, the more of it everyone's going to need as forces get more and more mechanized, airborne, and waterborne. Oil is the only resource that acts this way. All the others are used in production. So I'm going to take you through briefly what they are for, and then I'll explain to you what on earth is going on in this screen. So, aluminum is primarily used in aircraft construction. It's also a component in support equipment. Higher level aircraft are going to require more aluminum. So, for example, support equipment up here, I got 12 factories on support equipment. That's requiring 12 aluminum. Down here is aluminium, if you're from Britain. I've got 10 factories on improved fighters. Those are requiring 30 aluminum, 6 factories on improved casts, requiring 18 aluminum. If I go to advanced, it's going to cost me, I think, 4 for each. So its requirements get higher over time to get higher level equipment. Next is rubber. Rubber is used for tires. So you're going to need rubber for your motorized, you're going to need rubber for your mechanized, you're going to need rubber for your planes. I think most planes only require 1 rubber for light airframes, 2 for medium airframes, and heavy airframes might be 3. And then it's more if you put self-sealing fuel tanks in there. Next is tungsten. Tungsten is primarily used in anti-tank munitions and certain types of tanks, if they've got specialized anti-tank guns, are also going to use tungsten. I'm currently using 32 on my artillery here. I'll summon my artillery and summon my medium tanks here. Next, hold on, they're in a different order over here. Next is steel, which is used for frickin' everything. Steel is everywhere. It is very important to have enough steel. You use it for your infantry equipment, your support equipment, your tanks, your motorized, your mechanized. Actually, it might not. You might not use it for motorized. You do use it for motorized. Your mechanized, basically everything but planes, and you're going to use a whole heckload of steel for your navies. Finally, all the way at the right, we've got chromium. Chromium is used in advanced engines. I don't think it's primarily engines, but I could be wrong. It's not represented mechanically in the game as engines. It's for ships, primarily. Ships and high-level armored tanks. We got our tanks here using chromium, and our ships here are using chromium. The more armor your ships have got, if I recall correctly, or the higher level they are, the higher level their armor is, the more chromium they're going to take. That's my understanding of the way it works. It might be engines related. I don't know. I tend to improve engines and armor at the same time. When you're in the tank designer, you can see when it's going to cost you chromium by looking at... Hold, please. This area here. So I throw a ton of armor in here. Nope. It might be engines. I'm wrong. Maybe it's not doing it because this isn't a proper design yet. There it goes. Alright, so I drop the armor by a bunch. It's still costing chromium, but if I keep the armor all the way at the top, drop the engine a bunch, it's still going to cost chromium. Okay, well, suffice to say, I don't know. I don't know is the answer. It's fine. So, moving right along here, where do you get resources? When you go to the trade menu, you're going to see resources popping up all over the map. And this is going to show you where resources come from. Resources that are in your territory are going to flow into here. Depending on, if you got them in your core territory, you're going to get all of them. If you got them in occupied territory, you're only going to get a part of them, and it's going to show on the map how much you're getting. So, for example, I get minus 65% because I don't have this region as a core, which means I only get 5 oil out of it instead of, you know, a lot more than I might be able to get otherwise. That's going to flow into your extracted number here. That's going to be further affected by your trade laws. So let's look at the trade laws. You got free trade up here, which gives you a whole plethora of bonuses, but puts 80% of your resources on the market. Export focus is a balanced one that gives you a solid chunk of bonuses, not as good as free trade does, but it only puts 50% of your resources on the open market. Limited exports puts only 25% of them on the market, but it goofs up those bonuses real good. And then finally, closed economy provides the most of your resources, but it interesting base construction line speed boost and messes up your construction. That's curious. Also increases lend-lease tension limit, and then stops you from accessing the international market, except for your puppets and overlords. Closed economy is only available to fascist and communist countries, and only if they've got war economy or total mobilization, apparently. And they're not the Russian Federation with the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact. Neat. So, the percentage resources to market here is the important thing in terms of looking at resources. So, for example, I'm set to 50% resources to market. So, going back over here, each of these, the extracted and imported numbers are going to be green. They're increasing the total up here. The total is at the top, not at the bottom. Math is fun. Exported is dependent on your trade law, so I'm going to be exporting 50% of all of my resources. And if I mouse over these, I can see who's purchasing my resources. For example, there are a bunch of people purchasing my steel, a few people purchasing my tungsten, and a ton of people purchasing my rubber. So, useful information to have. I'm getting an absolutely absurd amount of construction from trade. So, something worth knowing. Then at the bottom, this is the amount that I am using for my production lines. So it's taking the total amount extracted and imported, adding them together, subtracted the amount exported and the amount used for production. And by the way, you're not going to export anything you import. It's completely a function of the amount you extract. And that's how much you're getting your totals at the top here. So, that's how you get resources, but what if you're short on resources? Well, if I'm short on resources, that's going to cause efficiency penalties in my production lines. And in order to resolve that, I need to import the resources that I need, or find a way to extract them, or seize territory that's got them in it. I think seizing territory is complicated enough. We've talked a lot about warfare, so let's talk about importation. That's part of the trade screen here, which is what we're doing. So, we got a bunch of different tabs here. They're organized by each resource. Each tab is a resource, and they're going to have the countries down here sorted based on how much of the resource they're putting out in the market. So, for example, Turkey is exporting a ton of chromium. As you can see, if we pan over to Turkey, there's just an absolute metric ton of chromium all over Turkey. You click the country you want to import from, this screen comes up. It shows you how much they're capable of importing and who else they're exporting to. I increase this. It's going to get me some of the resources, but it's going to cost me civilian factories. They're going to have use of these factories while I am importing this resource. All of this is an over time thing. There's no stockpile of resources. It's just going to create a line item in my totals here. So for example, if I import 8 chromium here, I'm going to hit send. That number is going to go up to 70. That number's going up to 78. Now I've got 8 here. These are all sort of an allocation thing. It's not there's no stockpile, you're just allocating the ones you've got. This is now showing in yellow because I'm importing when I don't need to import. So I can slide this back and fall back to 70. If I were below 0 and that were impacting something, I would have a red negative number here. There's one other button I want to draw your attention to, is that's the set amount that we need to buy to fill our need in current resources. This just sets the number to fulfill whatever your present needs are. In my case, because I've got a pretty solid overseas empire with a lot of resources, my need is basically 0 for a lot of resources. So I'm doing pretty well in that regard, but not a lot of countries are so lucky as that. So, that is basically everything I've got to say about resources and trade. Sorry, the only other thing is there's a statistic called trade influence. Basically, if a bunch of people want to purchase the same resources from the same country, they have to fight with their trade influence. It doesn't come up all that much in my personal experience, so I'm not going to talk about it that much. But there's a type of political advisor called the smooth-talking charmer. Oh, interesting. Compassionate gentleman doesn't do the same thing as he used to do. Smooth-talking charmer gives you 10% increased trade deal opinion factor, which can make a difference if you're trying to import stuff from a country that is trying to sell to everyone. Alright, that is resources. I've had fun. I hope you all have had fun, and I'll see you on the other side.